I am so excited because I have a guest coming to talk to us today. This is Johanna, and Johanna is a photographer and she's also a coach. She specializes in balance and burnout for photographers, making sure that they are living a balanced life and aligning themselves so that they can show up and do the best work. This is important to me because when I first started, there weren't a lot of resources for musicians. And everything that I learned was from photographers. And when we met, she was dropping truth bomb after truth bomb after truth bomb. And I thought, oh my gosh, us musicians need to hear this. I am just so excited to introduce Johanna to you. Johanna, I'm just going to let you do your thing and take it away.
Okay. Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for that amazing intro. It was so great when we met up in person and we had this really amazing back and forth conversation. And we related to a lot of things, both the photography background, but also just being a business owner and how work and career can really take over our lives in a way that can be really unhealthy for us,
Yeah.
both for our mental health, for our physical health, sometimes even for our relationships. Entrepreneurs have very different schedules at different times of year. Something that I've realized early on in my business was that if I didn't set boundaries, that work would overtake my life at the detriment of my mental health, my physical health, my relationships. And so I really started focus on how can I create balance? And I learned that it's not just creating balance in one area, it's looking across the board at your habits, your booking limits and capacity, looking at your pricing, looking at your systems. But the really cool thing then is that when you do start to look at that in one area, it has this beautiful ripple effect outward into not just your business, but your life. Because when I started to look at my boundaries, like, what are my boundaries on clients contacting me outside of work hours? Then I also started to look at, okay, what are the boundaries with other people in my life? Or what are the boundaries with myself of if I say that I'm not going to work on a holiday weekend, I'm actually going to uphold that and honor that with myself or, with other people around me in different areas of my life. And so since I started doing that, it has had such a positive effect on my own life. And it's something that now I try to help other people in the photography industry, but I honestly, a lot of other business owners or entrepreneurs follow me and they're like, these tips, I know they're for photographers, but they apply to me as well. And so I'm
Yeah.
just so grateful, really, that it is a topic, a conversation that we're having more and more across industries. And I love that you are focusing on musicians because there's a lot of talk about wedding industry, but not necessarily about other types of freelancers and
Mhm.
entrepreneurs. And I think that conversation needs to hit every single industry so that it helps other people just live a life that feels aligned with their goals and values and help people from suffering from overworking. In America, certainly we have a culture of overworking that is just really toxic.
This is beautiful. Just keep going. I love it all. I love every single bit of it.
Thank you. Yeah. And I know that today, like, you wanted to talk a little bit about New Year is coming up. And so, was there anything specific for musicians that you thought could be like a good starting point?
Ooh, let's see. A lot of musicians are going to be coming off of holiday season, which can be crazy for musicians, especially if they're doing a lot of private gigs, Christmas parties, holiday parties. Some of them might even reach into February because that's becoming a big trend where these places they're so busy during the holiday season that they have their holiday party in January instead. And now trying to prepare for answering people to start booking out for the summer and beyond.
Yeah, I definitely can understand that, like the unpredictability from year to year, even in my own business. I'll have some years where I'm booking in months where I'm like, wow, this is usually a slow month and I have a ton of weddings in this month. And then there's other years where I'm like, okay, I have nothing and this is kind of a weird feeling. And so that I think is one of the trickiest parts for entrepreneurs is planning your future schedule because you kind of are at the mercy of people reaching out to you. But there are a lot of things that you can do to be proactive about it and plan. So, the first thing that I would recommend for people is to look at your capacity of what do you actually have time and availability and space for. I always like to do at the beginning of the year, I call it an energy inventory of looking at the past year and saying, what were the things in the past year that were really draining for me in my business? Whether it was something on the back end, like, doing the bookkeeping, or for a musician, maybe like all the communication with the clients that they're booking. Maybe that was kind of a chore or sending out contracts. So looking at the things that were kind of draining or things that were a time suck for you or things that just were like not in your wheelhouse and you were like, I hated doing that part of my business and looking at could I outsource this year? Could I take a course to learn how to do this in an easier way? Could I ask somebody for help using the software and the system, finding ways to make it easier or take it off your plate. And then looking at the things that you really loved and enjoyed and want to do more of, and finding out like, how can I focus my attention more on that? So if you really enjoyed doing private gigs for like private parties, then maybe that's something that you really want to focus your attention on in the new year, and figuring out what that would look like for your schedule. Is it going to be like every single weekend that you're going to take this on? Or do you want to have a couple of weekends off for yourself, for your family, your relationships? And so looking at your capacity, because that is really the first thing that you need to figure out, is like how to align your schedule with what you want to be doing. And then from there, looking at things like your pricing, all that stuff comes into play as well. Like, how much do you need to make ends meet? And I also like to evaluate what were your 3 slowest months of the year, and figure out how can I make more money in those months this year.
Mm.
So, people are coming down from the holiday high and then going into 2025, but I'm sure that there's months from 2024 that people are going to say that was a really slow month. If you've been a musician for a few years and you're like, every June is really slow for me, then looking at what can I do in June to boost my income, or like, am I still able to make things work without that? Because some people might say that's a slow month and that's when I'm going to take my vacation because the rest of the year is going to be really busy. But for some people, I need to generate some income in that time of the year. So now is the time to start planting those seeds and be thinking ahead. During June, I can do a special where I offer, a set of weekly music lessons at a certain, like, maybe I can create something that during that month I'm really promoting so that I can make up for that income gap and I don't have to worry about booking as many gigs because I'm planning that ahead. But what I think a lot of people don't realize is the results or lack of results that you're seeing right now are the product of what you did or didn't do in the previous season.
Oh, oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to be thinking about right now and the future at the same time, and that can
Yeah.
be really challenging. Like, you're like, "I have my day-to-day things that are very time consuming, like, I have my own life stuff going on and my day-to-day answering emails, booking gigs, going to gigs," and then you also need to be planning for your next step. And so that's what I wanted to talk with you about today, to help musicians plan out your next steps, because right now we're getting ready to go into the new year, and this is a great time because people are like, all right, I feel refreshed, like new year, new start. But for a lot of people, that can also feel really overwhelming because they're like, I have so many things that I wanted to do last year that I didn't even start, or I gave up by February. And like going into this year, maybe you just feel like really tired and burned out from the holidays. So you might just feel exhausted and drained and burned out. And you're like, I honestly don't even know how to plan my goals for this year.
I've thought about doing these planning days, and honestly, I'm just trying to like, okay, let me just get through the season. Maybe my 2025 planning is going to be in January this year. I'm not sure.
Mhm. Yeah, and honestly, sometimes you really do just need that. Like, your body sometimes just needs to recover from burnout, because when you have burnout, it can have lasting and far-reaching effects on your body, on your mental health. And so sometimes you truly do just need to give your body that time to rest and recuperate. But you can have a softer start to the new year. And that is honestly what I recommend, because when people try to set New Year's goals, I think a lot of people give up on their goals by February because
Mhm.
of like two reasons. There's like two types of people that I'll generalize. Obviously, there's a lot of shades of gray in between, but there are the people who are like myself, who are tend to be overachievers. So this is the person, let's say it's somebody who, a musician who right now barely shows up on social media. We'll say they post like once every couple of months. So let's say that person is like, you know what, 2025 is going to be my year. I'm going to post a video of myself playing music every single day this year. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get more followers. I'm going to post every single day a video of myself. And then what happens? That goal is like going from zero to Mount Everest. And the first day that you miss, you're just like, well, I failed. Why do I even try?
Usually day 2.
Yeah, they do. Exactly. It really is like, it usually is in the first week. Who's like, I'm gonna go viral on TikTok, and they've never even used TikTok before. They've seen TikToks, they haven't made one. And it's like you have goals that are so ambitious that you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. And like, I'm definitely that type of personality where sometimes I set goals that are very intense, a little bit extreme. And so the first time that you slip up, you have this negative self-talk where you are just like, Why did you even try? You're a failure. Like you missed one day and everybody's
Mhm.
going to notice that you said you were going to post every day and you didn't. And really, in reality, nobody else really cares. Nobody else knows that you have that goal but you. And
Just thinking because usually there's, like, that big announcement of, "Okay, hey, guys, I'm gonna do a new thing this year. I'm gonna post every day for 30 days." And then it's just, like, embarrassing because, like, what do you and take that post take that post down? But like you said, most people aren't even paying attention.
Mhm.
They probably saw that and thought gave it a heart and then went on to watch a really funny reel.
Exactly, and here's the thing too, is, like, with the algorithm, half the time, like, we're so obviously, we're all, like, self-absorbed in some way or another, but, like, we think that
Mhm.
everybody's seeing our content all the time and, like, overanalyzing what we're doing. We're the only ones who are doing that. As you show up more consistently, more people will see the things that you're doing, but, if you're the kind of person that is that, like, overachiever or you set overly ambitious goals, I would recommend, like, don't make a huge formal announcement about it to anybody. Just say, like, "This is a goal for myself," and make a more realistic goal, right? Don't go from you hardly ever post on social media to I'm gonna post every single day this year. That's overly ambitious. Maybe just go with 1 time a week in January. Maybe February you move up to 2 times a week. Something that will make you feel a sense of accomplishment that you're doing something, you have some momentum, some forward motion, but not something that's so ambitious that you are literally going to fail on day 2. So that's kind of, the one type of personality. The other type of personality is the person who has extremely vague goals that are not specific at all. It's not defined and it's easily forgettable. So that might be the person who just says, "Yeah, I'm going to post more videos of me playing music on social media this year." And it's like, "Okay, but, like, when are you gonna do that? Or how much is more? Define more for me." Like, if you posted 1 time last year, are you just gonna post 2 times this year? Or
Yeah,
you
I like you said.
yeah, define more. So, yeah, and so, like, finding a happy medium between those 2 extremes, Like, maybe you just say, "On Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I am going to post something." Whether it's a video, whether it's posting about my services in a story, I'm gonna post something and not giving up at the first slip up. Just pick up where you left off and don't beat yourself up about it. So, a lot of the ways to have better habits and to be planning ahead and things like that, it's not rocket science. It's literally just like organization and planning ahead. And like, I think sometimes we want to overcomplicate how easy it can be to set goals. We want to make it overly ambitious or it's not specific enough. And so then we fail. And the other mistake is that we try to do everything on our own.
Ugh.
And, this is where coaches like you and I come in because doing something on your own, like, again, if you're a musician who wants to create a membership, like right now for the holidays, people are looking for gifts. A lot of people really love experience gifts. And for
Mm,
the new year, people want to pick up a new skill or improve on a skill of something they really enjoy doing. So let's say there's a musician who wants to create a membership, 6 months of guitar lessons. And they want to create a package that somebody can purchase and have monthly payments for that to create some recurring income for the future year. But this musician is like, "I have the idea, but I don't know how to set that payment plan up. I don't know how to set up the membership or how to schedule things." If you try to do everything on your own, that idea will never come to fruition because you don't know. And a lot of people could just Google, but even that for some people is overwhelming. Like you Google and you go down a rabbit hole of all these different options and it costs money
yep.
to do this or that. Well, the amount of time it takes you to reach your goals gets cut like dramatically in half when you get support and not trying to do everything on your own all the time and acknowledging if something is not in your wheelhouse and saying, like, there's somebody else who I see who already knows how to do this and is like 5 steps ahead of me. And so why don't I just reach out and ask them for help? Or why don't I find a coach who can help me as I'm going through not just learning how to do this process, but also going through the internal mind drama of I feel like imposter syndrome as I'm doing this, or I feel weird advertising about my services, or, I was having trouble showing up consistently this week. So how do I get back on the horse when I feel
Mhm.
so discouraged because I missed one day of my goal? And so that's where seeking out support in any capacity can really help you achieve your goals a lot faster. And it also just feels so much better knowing that there's somebody there cheering you on who's not there to criticize you like you think everybody else on the internet is there just to be like, "Oh, you missed a day." Having a coach or having a friend who's doing the same goal with you is having that accountability is very helpful for reaching your goals. And having somebody who's cheering you on and celebrating you, it creates a much more positive atmosphere around reaching your goals.
My goodness, let me tell you how important it is to have support. And I think that there's a lot of us, especially us female musicians, we are so used to having to go at this alone. You're used to toughing it out and you're traveling around. We're so used to DIYing
Mm.
everything. We often forget to get that support. Beyond the course, I also think it's important to get an actual coach or somebody who you're checking in with, somebody who you can bounce off of, not just let all those things sit in your head and go a million different directions, but somebody who can help bring you back. And it's like, whoa, okay, that's normal. You're not crazy. You don't have to get all caught
Mhm.
up in that. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's okay. Right. Thank you for bringing up that support because that's a whole thing for us musicians.
Yeah, and I think that's super relatable for so many industries as well. But at a certain point, when you are DIYing everything, like you said, it's costing you so much time,
Mhm.
right? Where there's
Yeah.
somebody else out there, like if you hate doing your own bookkeeping, there is somebody out there who nerds out over a spreadsheet and loves looking at your numbers. Something that would take you like days and weeks to finish. It would take that person less than a day to get it all done. They have the software to do it. They know the calculations. They know the rules. Like when you hire a professional in any capacity in your business, they know what they're doing and they can cut the time that it takes you to do that in half. They can get it done so quickly. And you're like,
Mhm.
wow, like, why did I wait so long to pay somebody else to do that for me? Even hiring a coach, somebody who's been there and done that and been through the things that they've been through, and to say,
Mhm.
you know, I had this exact same situation happen in my business and here's how I handled it. That is so valuable when you're investing in coaching. That is how you get your money's worth. They've been through this. They can help you. You know, that email that you get from a client who wasn't happy with your services or whatever, they have some sort of complaint or they were accidentally double charged. Like, how do I deal with this in a professional way that's not going to cost me customers in the future or not going to get me a bad review? And if your coach has already been through that, I have a level head, I've been through this. It's going to be okay. Here's how you handle it. And just having somebody there to really not even just hold your hand, but just like be there with you and be there beside you and know that you're not handling this alone
Mhm.
is the biggest relief in the world. And that's why
Yeah.
I've loved working with coaches too.
Yeah. I call myself an external processor. I can trip myself up, like, I have an idea, and I manage to talk myself out of it, think it's a
Mm.
bad idea, or I don't know, I made a post about it and no one responded, and sometimes I need that extra person to come in and to say, "This is a really good idea. You need to just keep doing it." That reminder, that support, that guidance. Actually, I did have a question on that. What was the first thing you outsourced as a photographer?
I probably, I'm trying to think. It might have been editing.
Editing? Yeah.
Yeah, which for photographers is like the most time consuming thing that we do. I hired an online business manager to help me with my workflows and contracts, emails, all that kind of stuff. Just so
Mhm.
much easier by having a system for it. That was really helpful. And also, she helped me set up a lot of my coaching membership pages and things like that. And then I also hired a new editor this year as well. If I find somebody that seems like the right fit, then I outsource. It's definitely been really, really helpful. Hiring a virtual assistant or online business manager to help with the back end processes, that's something that you don't necessarily need somebody on retainer for that, somebody to help you get the systems in place. And then once the systems are in place and they work, then you can just roll with it on your own once you know how to use it. So that's something that could be really beneficial. I don't know if musicians do too much of that.
I think it depends on the volume. I'm actually gonna be stepping into a similar role, but it's more sales focused
Mhm.
for some musicians, and I'm actually really excited about it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Because it can depend on which niche they're in. As a dueling piano player, a lot of that is being hired by companies, and so they're doing subcontractor work. It's different if they are going out and getting their own private gigs, because then in that case, yes, you might need somebody to handle some sales for you, and then managing the musicians, getting other subcontractors.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's amazing that you offer that, and if you start to feel like something is draining your energy, if you are
Mm,
like, "Every time that I have to do XYZ in my business, I hate it. I put it off, I procrastinate, or it takes me way longer than I feel like it should." I guarantee if you're thinking there's an easier way, there probably is. There's somebody who can do it much faster than you, somebody who actually enjoys doing that thing in your business that you really hate doing. But encourage you, if you start to feel like something is an energy drain on you, to start to look into either hiring somebody else to do it or finding ways to take that off your plate completely, because that will free up so much time and energy that you can be making more money, doing other things that you enjoy more, or just having more time to relax and enjoy your life.
I need to hire somebody to set up for me because I hate setting up.
Yeah,
I hate setting up, I hate hauling gear, and again, as you get older, you start wondering, "Oh my gosh, is this a young person thing? My back hurts."
yeah, all very true things. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you hate doing. It can just be something that you're realizing you're spending way too much time on and you want to focus on higher level things. So as we're talking about planting seeds for the new year, setting up goals, if you want to be able to have the capacity mentally to have space in your brain to think about the next season, you need to free up some of your time and your energy. And if you're spending, let's say, even, however long it takes you to set up or however long it takes you to prep contracts and subcontracts and send all those things out, if that's taking you hours to do every single time you have to book somebody, that is taking up valuable time that you could be coming up with your next big idea to make recurring income as a musician, or your way to make an online membership, or to have a content idea that's going to go viral. Even if
Mhm.
it's something that you might enjoy doing to some capacity, but it's just taking up too much time and you're not having time to be able to sit down and do big picture planning, then that's something also I would encourage you to reflect on and see, like, how can I free up my time, whether it's by having a more efficient work week as far as like what I'm doing when, or outsourcing things too.
It reminds me of how people are saying, "Hey, you need to treat your music like it's a business."
Mhm.
And this is one of the things that I think that they mean when they say that they're not expressing. Like, this is how you start thinking of your music, your craft as a business. Exactly what Johanna is saying.
Mhm.
This stuff is so important.
Yeah, because we can love what we do and also treat it like a business. I love photography. Even when I travel and things, I just take my camera as I enjoy doing it. But when I'm working with clients or in my day to day, I know that I have to treat it like a business because I need things to run efficiently. Otherwise, I can't continue to do this for very long because the chaos will ensue. Or if I don't have systems in place, I'm going to get very quickly overwhelmed, or I'm going to be outside of my capacity. And that leads to burnout, right? That leads to burnout because if you're like, I don't need to keep track of how much am I working and is this too much for me? Or I don't need to have a system for keeping my contracts organized. That's going to lead you to burnout because you're going to spend hours looking for documents, or might not be getting paid as much as you're supposed to because you're like not keeping track of these things. So, having systems, treating it like a business is really going to help you keep your sanity a little bit, help to prevent burnout because you'll have a clearer picture of what's actually going on in your business instead of just what you think is happening or what you assume is happening. That could lead to miscommunication, could lead to you not collecting all of the money that you're supposed to be paid. No.
Oh, what she said about collecting the money. You mentioned contracts and systems. What is your preferred CRM?
I use Dipsado.
A Sorry.
That's it's easy.
I know I did my whole thing and I have something that goes inside my honeybook, but just so y'all know, I started out on Dubsado and I used that one for years and
Yeah,
very,
and if
very solid.
yeah, for anybody listening who's like, what are you all talking about? CRM, Honeybook, Dipsado, they're all just systems basically where you can keep all of your projects and your contracts organized. You can have workflows. So, like, if somebody inquires with you, you can automatically send them an email that says, "Hey, I'm available for this gig on this date," if they're inquiring about a date. Or
Mhm.
if they're ready to move forward and book with you, you have an email that's already ready to go that gets triggered to send them the email with the contract and the payment. And so it automates that process. Instead of you having to sit down and prepare a customized email and a contract and a payment plan for every single person, but you have a lot of canned emails that save you a lot of time on the back end.
Yes. And then if you are hiring subcontractors, especially for musicians, there are musician specific CRMs.
I didn't even know that they had one specifically for musicians, which is always a nice feature to have of any platform that is designed specifically for you. That's awesome. And I was going to say too that part of planting the seeds for the new year now, that can be a challenge for some people to think about what you have to do in your day to day this week and also be thinking about 3 months down the road. But if you carve out specific time during the week where you're planning ahead for the next quarter or for the next month, or for the next week. Just having that organization is really going to help you have more success, especially for entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and freelancers, periods of like really high income and then you have really low dips of income. I have found in my business in the last 3 years that I have been focusing on future planning and looking at the next season ahead and looking at my slowest 3 months of the year and planning ahead of what can I do to make money then has really helped to stabilize my income and create a much more consistent month to month income. Examples that you see in the broader spectrum, think about companies that in stores are starting to put out stuff for the holidays in like August.
Right.
Yeah, and we all get annoyed by it.
For some of us freelancers who are doing private gigs, they start promoting that in August or July. Christmas
Mhm.
in July. How many times have we done a Christmas in July party? Actually, I feel like they're not as common now as they used to be. I feel like that was the
Mhm.
early 2010s. Like
Yeah, I
a
think so.
lot of Christmas in July parties then, but not so much now.
Big companies, they're putting out holiday stuff in August, which is like months ahead. They're doing that first as like a signal of, hey, this is coming up. They're going to get some of those people who are going to jump on that early. They're going to buy all their decorations early, put their lights up early, and all these things. The company is going to be restocking inventories. They're making more money because they're starting as early as possible. They're going to guarantee that they reach their quotas. And, same thing for musicians. If you have a certain number of gigs that you want to book, if you're like, I want to reach this income goal for the holidays, the earlier you start promoting it, the earlier you start talking about it, the more successful you're going to be at booking that. I would focus on your slowest months of the year and start using that same mentality of like, if I start a quarter ahead of time advertising for this, if I start posting about it regularly, hey, this is coming, then start launching it and then start posting about it more and more frequently as it gets closer, you are going to be more successful at booking those slower months. And you'll find that they're not actually slow months. It's just months that you haven't advertised for before, or it's a season that you haven't thought about because you were thinking about Christmas, which honestly, again, you don't really have to advertise for because people are just going to be booking things. So, instead, focus your attention on like the time of year where you're struggling and start thinking ahead for that now. Gauging interest. If you're like, hey, if I were to do an in person singing workshop in the month of June, would you be interested? Ask people what days of the week would you be interested in having this and start putting together the materials. Carve out some time in your week that you can dedicate to creating promotional materials or creating videos showing people what you would learn in this workshop. And so you can start doing that well ahead of time. And it doesn't have to be something you spend every day on, but you can say one day a week, I'm going to do something towards creating this workshop. I'm going to promote this in some capacity so that by the time June rolls around, I have a fully booked workshop and I have income guaranteed for that time of year that's typically slow for me. And on a micro level, planning out your week ahead of time and saying, what is the time of day that I work best as far as coming up with creative ideas? Don't let your entire day or your entire week go by. And then on Friday afternoon, when you're drained, say, I'm going to sit down and do this because it's not going to happen or it's not going to be very creatively fruitful. You'll get a lot more done if you pick a specific day of the week and dedicate that time to it than if you just say, I'll get it done at some point this week. It's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I know I personally am guilty of thinking I'm gonna batch everything on Sundays. And I have to take it a step further and I have to actually decide when I do sit down, these are the things that I'm gonna do. And
Mhm.
otherwise I will sit there and be like, I don't even know what to do. And then I end up like clearing out my email box or something that
Yeah.
doesn't really make a difference. It's not anything that's really moving the needle.
Something very, very simple that is so helpful if anybody listening is somebody who struggles with making the time or remembering that you want to do something, literally just put it on your calendar. I always tell people if it's not on the calendar, it's not happening, whether it's taking a day off or sitting down to plan out your ideas for the next quarter, practicing music. I'm sure at a certain point you've had to have a system for yourself where you're like, I'm going to sit down and do this. Over time, it becomes a routine, it becomes a habit. You don't have to necessarily remind yourself of it because you will feel that instinct of, oh yeah, this is what I do on Sunday afternoons is I sit down and I plan my week ahead. But when you're first starting out and you don't remember it's not a habit, you really need to have physical reminders. And I do definitely have digital reminders on my phone calendar, but I also have a physical calendar where I have things written down because if I cannot see it, if it's not visible to me, I'm going to forget about it.
Mm.
So, whatever works for you, but literally just having a calendar reminder that says, reminder, tomorrow at 12 p.m., you're going to sit down and work on your quarterly goals. And then on Sunday at 11 a.m., you have a reminder that says, in 1 hour, you're going to be sitting down to work at your goals. As many calendar reminders to get you to actually sit down and work on
A lot.
it.
I'm gonna have a series on parenting as a musician.
Oh,
And
yeah.
because of the extra challenges of sometimes you make these plans and they get completely thrown off track. And trying to do that with a toddler being like, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, why aren't you answering me? Mommy." It's just like, "Ah, just give me a minute. I'm just trying to compose this email." Or it's not even that. It's just like a template. Like, I'm just trying to change the name
Yeah,
on
exactly.
on the template, and that can be hard enough as it is, but we'll see what comes from those conversations of the parenting stuff.
Mhm. Yeah,
Anyway.
absolutely. It adds an extra layer to it. But I was just thinking that as musicians, experienced musicians know that in order to get to the level where you are of talent, of skill, you had to practice. You had to practice regularly and very intensely to get to where you are now. And so I want to say, like anything else in your business that you're like, I'm not good at this, or I am really bad at showing up on social media, or I'm really bad at promoting myself. You have to practice in the same way that you practice to become a talented musician or talented singer. You have to apply the same consistency, diligence to that as you would learning an instrument or learning to improve your singing skills. It took time and took practice. So give yourself the same grace, but also give yourself the same determination to show up and actually do that. And consistency matters more than the quality of what you're posting because you
Mm,
can get really, really good at something over time just from showing up day after day and doing it. You
yeah.
don't necessarily even have to be the best at it. People will see your name more. People will learn about your business because they keep seeing your name pop up because you keep posting. But that consistency that you have as a musician, use that to your advantage. If I learned this instrument. I learned how to do this skill in my business that before I didn't know. It was something completely unfamiliar. And now it's just routine. And the same thing with
Mm,
whatever goal it is that you have, whether it's just getting into a routine of sitting down and planning for the season ahead, or being more organized, or showing up more on social media to promote yourself. It's something that you can definitely do with time and with practice and with consistency.
yeah, I love that. If you've ever had a coaching session with me where I talk about gamifying the process, where you have a goal and you're probably gonna make some mess ups on the way there. And I like to have a rule of 3. Try it at least 3 times. With either one of those, something's gonna go wrong. So, go back, see where changes can be made, and then try it again. New problems might pop up. Okay, well, let's see what went wrong, reflect on it. What worked well, what didn't, let's try it again. That's my rule. That's what I consider to be gamifying is just
Mhm.
keep trying it, keep experimenting. What if I try it this way? Well, things go differently. I love that with what you're saying of it's just like practicing because I actually got that idea from practicing. You I practice my songs and I nail it in private, but then as soon as I turn on a camera or get on stage, all of a sudden everything goes wrong. But the first few times of trying to do that song, so I have my rule of 3, and usually something goes wrong with those first 3 attempts, and then finally by the 4th, sometimes the 5th attempt, things start going a little bit better.
Yeah, and I also love what you did there. You kind of normalized that things are not going to go perfectly. And when people think of New Year's resolutions, a lot of people get so overwhelmed just by the thought of it because they're like, I have to show up perfectly 365 days in order to achieve my goal, which is not the case. And that's why most people abandon their resolutions by like February 1st because that's unrealistic. And what you just said there, Kim, was try it 3 times. Something is probably going to go wrong. And I tell people that, I'm a wedding photographer too. I tell people that on their wedding days. I'm like, something is going to go differently than what you planned or envisioned today, but you are still going to have an amazing wedding day. And most likely it's going to be something that doesn't matter. Like as long as you and your person get married at the end of the day, and everybody has a great time, like nothing else really matters. So not creating that unrealistic expectation of perfection, because honestly it's exhausting to expect for everything to go perfect, and it's kind of boring too. Sometimes when things go wrong, there's either something really valuable that you can learn. So if you're a musician on stage and your mic is not working, and you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to roll with it, I'm just going to sing as loudly as I can, and then maybe more people will sing along and get into it because they're like, you know what, I can see that they're dealing with technical difficulties and they're still trying to sing anyways, and I'm just going to be as supportive a crowd member as I can be. So sometimes it turns into a situation where it's just like, I turned this kind of crappy situation into a really fun night. And people remembered my dedication. Even though my mic wasn't working, I still showed up and I gave my 100% anyways. Your goal should just be doing your best and showing up in the best that you can with the circumstances that you have.
Yeah. My mic's going wrong. That happened to me over the weekend, everybody.
Really? Yeah.
Mine it
Yeah.
happens, expect things to go wrong. I was actually proud of myself and how I handled it. Usually I, like, make some big joke out of it. Long I
Yeah.
was doing it's probably not that serious, not in the context where I work anyway. Um,
And that's
we
such
didn't
a
even
valuable skill to learn as well, is like being able to adapt to things going wrong. And if everything went perfectly all the time, then you would not know how to handle it yourself in those situations. And so the next time it happens, you're like, okay, this is what I did last time and it worked well. So I'm just gonna like, I'm gonna dance around for a bit until I can get it to work. And honestly, I went to the Eras tour this year and Taylor Swift had some issues because her mic was fine. It was so impressive. She was singing, she did not miss a single word in between when she's gasping for air. She literally didn't miss a single word. And we could tell for a few minutes that she was struggling to hear in her headset, but she kept going, like obviously a true professional. And I'm sure it's happened to her before. But I honestly respected her even more for dealing with those technical difficulties while she was still on stage. And she just kept going. And as the audience, you're sympathetic to that as well. You're not going to
Mhm.
be like, wow, they suck, right? It's like they're having technical difficulties. They're only human and it's technology. And she said at the end of the show that they had a bunch of rainy concert dates. But
Yeah.
I respected her so much for the way that she handled it. And like she really just like gave her all. She was dealing with the mic pack issues and like replacing batteries while she was still singing and performing. When this happened, she was in the middle of an outfit change and like she's running up and down this long runway. And I was honestly just so impressed that she was able to continue doing that and also deal with this technical difficulty at the same time. And she did not miss a single word. And that's also something to realize when we're self critical of our own mistakes or slip ups, or we don't meet our goals, or we don't do the thing that we said we were going to do consistently. We are so negative and so harsh on ourselves. But to other people, people are looking at you like, wow, like you're doing so much right now. Like, you're posting a lot. Even if you miss a day, they're like, your
Mhm.
stuff that you've been putting out is so good. I love the videos that you've been posting. Or, wow, you had a technical difficulty on stage and you still kept going and you were positive. It made me really respect you as an artist. And so, a lot of times, the things that we're super harsh on ourselves for, other people are looking at with admiration and
Mhm.
respect, or even just like compassion. And I think that's something really nice to keep in perspective. When you feel down on yourself for not showing up perfectly for your goals, other people are looking at you and like, I wish I was where you are right now.
Is there any closing thoughts that you'd like to leave people with? And also, how can people find you?
Yes, absolutely. So you can follow me at Balance Not Burnout Photographers on Instagram. I'm hosting a free virtual coaching workshop on January 8th. It is for photographers, but honestly, I think it could apply to anybody. It's to help you come up with content ideas. You can create a month's worth of content ideas in just
Ooh.
5 minutes. And I'm going to walk you through the process. It's something you can repeat and take with you. So like I said, it's not necessarily specific to photographers. There will be a lot of photographers there, but it's just about content ideas. So I'd love for anybody to register for that. The link is in my Instagram profile. And last thoughts to leave you with, again, if you are wanting to create some more positive habits this year, reach some new goals, create a goal that is slightly challenging, but attainable. It has to be specific. Don't go from zero to Mount Everest. Find support. Don't try to do everything on your own and put it in your calendar. And I think you will be so much more successful at reaching your goal if you do those things. So make sure you are thinking not just about today or in tomorrow, but what you're going to be doing or seeing the results of in the next season.
Just mic drop. I don't think we're doing mic drops anymore, but I feel like it is very fitting for this. Like I said, I was excited. You did not disappoint. You always show up with just the best things to say, encouragement, motivation, ideas. Thank you so much. Hopefully, this is a boost that some of us really needed right now. I know I personally did. Thank you so much for your time, for spreading your knowledge, all that you've learned, and for all the work that you do. Please keep it up because you're going to change so many lives with this. So, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. So, thank you again for creating this space and for having this conversation. And I hope that it helps so many people feel encouraged to work towards their goals in a more attainable and chill way in the next year.
All right. Well, thank you.